All right. So thank you for joining us for another Wednesday Grab and Go Growth Tactics session. I want to introduce the three of us. My name is Jim Willcox. I am the owner of Willcox and Associates. And yes, I have associates. Kelly and Tim may or may not be on the call, but I'm a Sandler Performance Center out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, with an office in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame. So we cover the great state of Indiana. I have with me John Vanderslice. John, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so hi, I'm John Vanderslice. I am also a Sandler Performance Center owner here in beautiful Southern New Jersey, not to be confused with Northern New Jersey. Nothing wrong with that. Just want to make that distinction. And we serve what we call the Delaware Valley, really the Philadelphia market and all of South Jersey, from the Jersey Shore up to about the middle of New Jersey.
And then we have with us, if you look at the picture, a very young Tim Berry, who's not really young.
All right, I'm pretty young. So I'm Tim Berry. I own sales and management results for a Sandler Performance Center in Fort Worth, Texas, the great Republic of Texas. My training center serves clients all over the Dallas, Fort Worth metro area, and Chicago, everything in between. So I've got clients all over the country, and happy to be here and happy to be providing some value. So thank you, both you gentlemen, for letting me be part of the team.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we want to get people participating in our chat discussion. So hopefully you guys that are out there and gals that are out there with us, we have 70 on this call right now. Hopefully by now you know where the chat box is on Zoom, but if you move your mouse, you should be able to see that in the taskbar. So in the chat, I want you to type, what keeps you from having meaningful conversations with prospects these days? Whether it's actual or it's conceptual, right? So if you've got a technical issue that's keeping you from having a conversation with a prospect, great, put it in chat. If you've got a conceptual issue, we're going to talk about one of the conceptual issues right now. So John and Tim, when we were talking yesterday, we've gotten a lot of feedback from not only our clients, but other people that we're engaging with, that they're telling us that there's maybe some fear from calling around this concept of poor timing. Can we talk a little bit about that and give some grab and grow techniques to help with this concept of poor timing? John, you had some thoughts on that.
Sure. Well, first let's level set. So for those of you who may not know, the difference between a conceptual problem and a conceptual challenge and a technical challenge is, the technical challenge is if somebody says to you, for example, you know what, Jim, I'm just not spending money today. It's essentials only. The technical problem is you don't really know what to do there. You're kind of stuck. And a conceptual problem is you know what to do, but maybe because of some head trash or some preconceived notions or feelings you have about a situation, you don't do it. So just that difference between technical and conceptual. So I think right now, Jim, for a lot of our clients and people that I talk to, and actually Christy Howell's on the call today, said, look, I'm calling people and, she's finding out that, well, geez, we just laid off all our people today, or, we're completely shut down. And people are uncomfortable making the call. And I agree. I don't think now is really the time to be making just general outreach sales calls as if all were normal, because all is not normal. But that said, I do think if we can solve a problem that people have, we have to use our skill to help them understand how we may be able to help. And it's easier said than done. But I think one of the worst things we can do is just decide on our own that we probably shouldn't even reach out.
Yeah, so I want to make a comment, and then maybe we can role play some tactical ways of getting into that conversation. John, I think what you just said speaks to something we've been talking about over the past couple weeks that is circulated around our Sandler network, this notion of, you know, it's unethical to sell somebody something that they do not need. It's equally as unethical not to sell somebody something that they do need. So that speaks right to this notion of, hey, poor timing. So how do we figure that out? Can we role play that out, or maybe have you and Tim role play that out? How do you get in that conversation to figure that out?
So give me that again. So we call and we're just in the mindset that, you know we can help and we know somebody has a problem, but maybe we're just uncomfortable taking the step, and what that would look like or sound like?
Yeah, it's poor timing, whether it's in my own head or whether the prospect is telling me, hey, this is just really bad timing. How do we figure that out so we're not in that moment? How can we preempt that moment, if you will?
Well, I think for me, I mean, to preempt the moment is, it all starts with belief. I mean, I think the belief that, as you said, it's really not ethical not to help somebody when they need help. So I don't really think about selling. I just think more about helping. And if I know that somebody's struggling in their business and they're not sure, you know, what should I be doing now, or what, you know, how do I move forward? And I know I can help with that. It's not right for me not to reach out to them. Now, again, I think the way we reach out has a lot to do with how receptive somebody will be. But I think it's just a mindset that it's, you know, we have to do it. I can't not doing it. So it would be like if you saw someone fall off their bicycle on the side of the road and you just drove by and you didn't stop to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the dealing with the personal head trash is an important piece of that, because if we believe that it is the wrong time to call, it is the wrong time to reach out and engage with people, we really put ourselves, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We start to suffer from confirmation bias, and it prevents us from actually having those discussions. So I think we really have to go in with the mindset of, there's going to be a couple different kinds of people that you call. One is going to be people that are genuinely, ready to talk to you, and it might be a hyper right now type of a conversation. And the other ones might be in some dire straits where they have actually shut down. The belief system that we have as salespeople has to be that I'll talk to anybody, and anybody and do it with a gentle, nurturing demeanor, and just triage through it, because even if they're not ready to talk to you right now, doesn't mean you can't start out developing that relationship, which may take time anyway. Does that make sense?
Sure. Jim, do we have anybody manning the chat box specifically, or
yeah,
we just?
I'm in there right now.
So let's, I'll tell you what, why don't we pause for a minute? Because I think there's a couple really good questions here. Is that okay?
Yeah, so let me just go through a couple of these. Amy Vanden Elzen is talking about head trasher Brown. The prospects don't want to talk to her right now because she can see there's layoffs, shutdowns, no money for anything. Cassie Lamb had made a good mention of detaching from the personal relationship, moving forward with the professional. This is there's some really good.
Why don't we take one here, a specific? I saw there's a lot of great questions in here. Let me look at the one that I just saw. So Chris, let's see. Lisa Thompson, it's great. She said, I'm getting a lot of hangups. They're treating me like a shark in the water, right? They're coming to get me, trying to do something to me that I don't want. So what do we do about that, do you think, Jim?
Well, John, why don't we role play that out? Let's talk about, let's role play that scenario out. So, you call me, how do you prevent the hang up, or how do you figure out where I am? So I'll be the prospect and you be the caller.
Oh, what, do I have to be the shark in the water? Is that?
You do. Yeah. You have to be the shark in the water here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, ring, ring.
Hi, this is Jim.
Hey, Jim, it's John Vanderslice. I imagine that name probably doesn't ring any bells with you.
Nope. John, what do you got for me today?
Yeah. So, Jim, this is probably a call that either you're expecting or not expecting. This is a prospecting call, but if I can just maybe take 30 seconds, kind of let you know why I'm calling. You can decide if you want to hang up on me or keep going. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So Jim, I talk to a lot of business owners like you in the same insurance business. And I have to be honest, when I'm calling, I'm getting one of two reactions. Either people are saying, I can't believe you're calling me. You're like a shark in the water. This is a bad time. Or they might be saying, hey, you know what? I'm kind of glad you called because I have a little bit of time now to think things through a little more than I could. So I'd be interested to hear what you have. I don't know if either of those are on your radar screen, Jim, but you can tell me if this call's even appropriate or not.
Well, I appreciate your approach, John. I would say I'm somewhere in between the two. So let's time out there. So I like that, right? So there's a good approach that you can take to kind of test the waters ahead of time, right? And I think that's where salespeople might be getting tripped up when we have these conversations with them about I'm either getting hung up on or people are telling me, hey, this is bad timing and I don't know what to do. So why don't we do that in reverse, John, so we can give people maybe another, some different ideas about how we approach that. So this time you be the prospect.
Okay.
Right. And I'll be the shark in the water.
Awesome. Okay.
There
perfect.
we go. So
give me a call.
Yep. All right. Ring, ring.
John Vanderslice.
John, Jim Willcox. Hey, I'm guessing my name doesn't mean a thing to you.
Not so far, Jim.
I didn't think so. So John, I appreciate you taking my call. I'm making a lot of them these days. And, before we figure out if we should talk, if I could kind of set things up this way. So as I'm making calls, John, I'm finding that about half the CEOs that I'm talking to are telling me, you know what, Jim, that this is really, really bad timing, right? We're in a place that we don't want to be, probably couldn't do anything, even if I wanted to. The other half of the CEOs that I'm talking to, John, are telling me that, look, I'm open to a conversation. I can't tell you that I'm going to make a decision, right? But I'll at least hear you out. John, which kind of call could we be having right now if you had to pick between one of those two?
Well, I guess it depends, Jim, on what you're specifically calling about. But I think if you're probably trying to sell me something, I'm probably more in the camp of now's not really the right time. But again, I don't have any idea if you're selling insurance or, water balloons. I have no idea.
Perfect. It's neither of the two, John, but why don't we do it this way, right? Let's have a dialogue. Not sure that I'm going to sell you anything, even if you liked it, but let's have a dialogue. And somewhere by the end of it, we can kind of figure out where we should be going. Is that fair?
Fair enough.
So whether or not you like the approach, right, on the call, some of you may or may not like the approach. The idea is to kind of test the waters, right, with the prospect. If you're feeling like, gosh, I don't know if I should be even making the call, right, the technique there is to test the waters. And the idea is for you guys to think about, how would I put that, John's role play, my role play, how would I put that into my own words, right? So what are we seeing in the chat box, Tim?
So, James Blandy is skeptical. He just doesn't think it's a great approach. And, that's just to feed into what you had just addressed. there's a lot of, you can suffer from confirmation bias. If you don't like it and you don't try it, of course, it's never going to work. I do a lot of cold calling every day and all the way through this thing. And it really does. It has separated itself out into those two buckets. And at some point, if you take the chance and you execute the activity, you'll see that you can develop it your way. You can say it your way. What we're not trying to say is that it's our way or the highway. Just have the ability to to use your own personal, your personal characteristics into that. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Michael has something in the chat box too. Michael Norton, I think, is a good call. He said, he's initiating calls and using a Sandler technique, reversing. He calls and initiates a conversation with, empathy and relationships. Legitimately checking in on somebody. Now, this wouldn't probably be somebody that we don't know, although I suppose it could be. And then he said, I'm guessing today or now is probably not the right time to talk about business. And he says he's either getting, no, it's not a good time, or he's also getting, yes, it's okay. We probably should talk business.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think those are great approaches to kind of test the waters. I noticed that Steve put in the chat box, I think a lot of us are struggling with, we don't even really know what to say when we get on the phone. So what would you guys say to that? If, there's a sales pro out there that is really struggling with, I don't even know what to say. I know I need to call, but I'm not sure even what to say.
Yeah, I think, if you're scared, if you're, sensing some hesitation and some fear, just say it out loud. Be genuine and be real. You can be very empathetic. I've had some successes just being raw and saying, look, I know this is for many of us and for most of us, it's among the scariest times in our business careers. And so maybe this call isn't really warranted, but I just thought I'd reach out to you and just, do a temperature, take your temperature on, how can I help your business? How can I serve you? And it's the more real and the more, the more genuine you get. I think this is, it's just, you have to take the leap and do the behavior. You'll figure it out. It's not going to come out perfectly in the beginning, but if you script out the structure that you want, do the pattern interrupt and get their attention, and just buy yourself another 30 seconds of time, and if not, then that's fine.
Steve Rhodes says he said he feels that a lot of times it's head trash, and people don't want to be seen as salesy. I think that's, when we talk about a conceptual problem, right? That's a fear. We don't want to feel that we're offending anybody in calling. But again, I think it's, if you're well-intentioned and you really let your feeling about the situation, again, that you can help and let that guide you. Are people still going to hang up? But remember, we're not trying to give somebody something they don't want or they don't need. We're there to help. So I think if you go into it with the right mindset, you'll figure it out and you'll get the words. And I like the approach of asking, hey, now may not be the right time to talk about business. But again, if we do have the opportunity to help, I'd rather make an error of enthusiasm than one of omission.
Yeah. You got me thinking there, John, and about the word salesy, right? Because this topic came up, right? And we called it serving or salesy, right? But what is salesy? I mean, if you had to define salesy, right, and it's got a negative connotation around it, how would you define salesy? Because I think that's the thing that a lot of people are struggling with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think salesy, we've all gotten those, Hey, Mr. Vanderslice, how are you today, sir? Are you holding up okay during this time of stress and crisis? Click. I mean, it's not genuine.
Yeah, it's fake. That's
Yeah.
totally fake. And I think one of the, John, just to interrupt, I think one of the things we do wrong, and I think we do a disservice to, is we'll start out going, hey, John, Tim Berry, how are you doing today? Yeah, it's a fake question, and I want to challenge and encourage everybody to take how you doing out of your lexicon, your sales lexicon. That's the first giveaway that we're cheesy salespeople, and we've got to eliminate that thing, because it's a dead giveaway straight up. It's ingenuine. You don't care how they're actually doing. You want to get what you want to say out. Everybody on earth knows it. We say it as a reflex, and it's an awful thing to say. So,
yeah. And more in the chat
I think
box, Steve Phones said, if we can help, we owe them to offer.
Yes. So how do you, one of the things we talked about is this objection that is stopping a lot of people cold in their tracks, which is, hey, we're just not spending money right now. And that's one that's come up a number of times. So how do you guys, if we're going to give some tactical, so let's say that somebody does need what we have, but their reflex response is, well, Tim, John, we're just not spending money right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I had this conversation this morning on a coaching call way back in the day, whenever the day was, which is getting further and further in the rearview mirror, unfortunately. But there's a thing, it's not necessarily Sandler, but it's feel, felt, found, for if any of you have heard of that. And, sometimes, again, we have to help understand that people are struggling. And you could say, Jim, I understand, how you feel. It's certainly a challenging time. I've talked to a lot of people, and they felt exactly the same way. And here's what they found, or here's what we found, right? And at least we tried to lead them and have a recognition that, I understand that. I mean, that's a lot of people are in protection mode right now. So I think in that empathy, I think one of the best things we can do right now is have empathy for people and understand people are struggling to different degrees. So I would say that, we don't want to push the matter and say, well, you still want to grow your business, don't you? I mean, that's not going to work, but I can say, I understand how you feel. And, a lot of people that I talked to, felt the same way. And here's what we found, that as we work through this challenge, we know eventually we're going to come out the other side, and we have to figure out, are we going to kind of just be in protection mode right now, which feels right? Or do we have to maybe do some things to, move the business forward to ensure that when the clouds do part, we're in a better position to take advantage, whatever that is for your business. So that's what I've been doing. And I think having that empathy for people makes a difference. I think people can feel when we're sincere. You can't fake sincerity, right?
I think you're 100% correct. And if we go back to what Tim said just a minute, right? If we lead with, hey, Tim, it's Jim Willcox, how are you doing? Right? Even though it's a reflex, and even though it's well-intentioned, I think we've got to really pay attention to our empathy, right? So Ken in the chat box has some great examples of different ways of asking, how are you doing, right? So I may call Tim and say, Tim, I appreciate you taking my call. Before I give you the purpose of my call, I just want to check and see how your company's doing, right? How are you guys being affected by this crisis? Now, that could be met with any number of responses, but that's genuinely empathetic, right? By saying, hey, I want to pause and just find out, how's your company, right? That's empathetic, and it's different than, hey, Tim, Jim Willcox, how are you today, right? Which may come off slightly different. So I think we've got to give a lot of thought to, the words that we're using when we pick up the phone and dial people, when we're prospecting. Because I think there's no question that if our responsibility is to drive business, right, we've got to engage with people, and engage with people means we've got to have conversations.
Right? I'm going to say this too, and I know Kenny is a great guy, and he does a great job. He's a very highly regarded professional with New York Life. For me, and I'm curious of the group too, I think one area we have to be careful is we don't want to be too familiar. If someone calls me and I don't know them and they start asking me, is my family healthy? How am I?
Yeah.
How's my business? That's where we can get a little bit on that other side of the little bit maybe too salesy sometimes. So what I think helps us to the degree that we're able, anything we can do to make a call warmer, whether we can draw an association from someone on LinkedIn or say, hey, I noticed we're both connected to a number of people on LinkedIn, Larry Cohen, for example, and Tim Barry. I'm just reaching out to some people, just kind of checking to see how's business right now. Is the business healthy? Hopefully the family is well. Something to draw some connection rather than I have no idea who this is calling me and they're asking me, how's my business and is it healthy and what's going on? So I think doing that little extra to put a little padding around it helps.
I've got there's in chat, I think Matt Casano makes a really, really strong point. And he says, I like the trajectory of vulnerability over empathy. A response of protection deserves empathy, yes, but vulnerability is a better antidote. Vulnerability equals equal business and emotional stature. I really like that thought. And again, in order to project vulnerability, I equate vulnerability with being genuine. Most of us abhor the concept of cold calling. Now, there's some freaks like Willcox and Vanderslice and I that we love it. We've gamified it, but most people are. It's not. And so even if you feel something, just say it out loud. A good pattern interrupt is, okay, I'm scared to death right now, but you know what? Put your seatbelt on. Can I take 30 seconds of your time to tell you what I'm calling for in the first place? Now, that's not going to work for everybody, but it's naming your emotion, and which gives, it takes the teeth out of it because you said it out loud. And then it also gives you the subconscious ability to relax yourself. And when you relax, then you can gain equal business stature because now they're really talking to you instead of the salesy version of you.
Yeah. Dave Lee makes a good point in the chat box in regards to we're not spending money. People are also under pressure, struggling to save and or grow their business. So that there could be a gap in there. And I think, Dave, you're 100% correct, right? So one of the things that we've got to focus on is being confident, courageous, gutsy, whatever you want to call it, 5 seconds at a time. So if John says to me, Jim, listen, we're just not spending money right now, right? There's a lot of different responses I could use, but I might say to John, I appreciate you sharing that with me. So I get that you're not spending money, but share with me a little bit, about your business growth right now. Is that on hold? Are you growing your business? What does that look like? Right? And if I can get into that dialogue with John, right, we may find that there's something there. We may find that there's nothing there. So I think we've got to focus on being gutsy, being bold, being confident 5 seconds at a time when we get those questions and not allow those to shut us down as sales professionals.
Yeah, all right. I think coming back to the beginning, what you said, Jim, I think it's good to do a check-in and we think, about are the challenges we're having, are they technical challenges? Do we really not know how to handle it? Or is it probably maybe right now a little more likely that it's going to be a conceptual problem, our own beliefs that, we might be seen as salesy or we may be intruding or now it's not the right time. But level setting and recognizing that we're here to serve, not sell right now. And, we're not trying to give anybody anything they don't need.
Absolutely. John, I think those are great final thoughts. We're right at the top of the hour. We appreciate everybody staying for the half hour with us. As you are leaving, go ahead and type in the chat one takeaway that you got from this session. and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week on our next Grab and Grow growth topics. Everybody have a great day out there.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, Tim.
Serve, not sell, empathy,
Mindset. Thanks, Dave.
That's a beautiful one.
Yep. Dave, good to see you on the webinar here. It's okay to be vulnerable, service mindset. I love it. Tim, how you doing?
I'm freaking awesome. How are you, man? You must be a salesman calling me, asking me that stupid question.
Absolutely. All right. Appreciate everybody typing
comments.
in a lot of great. Go ahead, Johnny.
No, I was just going to say, I think what we should try to do too is, Jim, I think, and Tim, we're to kind of look through the files here in our white papers and maybe send some things along to the group that can help, with some of this. It's a lot to cover in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, we'd rather make an hour of it enthusiasm than omission and get out there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, good.
Yep.
Good
All right.
question.
I'm going to shut this down. I'll see you guys on the next webinar.
Yeah.
So we can stop the recording and capture all of the comments. Appreciate everybody being here. Have a great day.
See you guys. Bye.